Hey, this is actually a short video specifically for creative work who asked me about keyframes. Um, yeah, so I hope this does help you and I hope it helps somebody else as well. I've got a short animation. I'm just going to let it play quickly. Let me just set it up. I'm just going to let it play quickly. The sword fight with two-handed, straightforward. So I'm just going to quickly talk about the keyframes. So as you can see here, I've got this blue keyframe and I've got the red keyframe, and then in between the colors do differ here. So that's called the interpolation. So when I started Cascadeur, I only tried to use this. This seemed a lot simpler than to open this up and do this per what would you call it, body part or section of the body. But I quickly realized that it's impossible to get decent animations without sectioning off these body parts of parts of the body and actually putting different interpolation modes in it, or maybe not even add a keyframe. It all depends on your end, but this is how I do it. Sorry, long story short, um, keyframes, a little bit of keyframes there, all of these blues keyframes. If I close this out, you will see that this section will actually go red, as you can see there. The reason it's red is it means that my legs doesn't have a keyframe, where my arms have a keyframe. The other sections here where it's blue, for example here, it means every part of my body's got a keyframe on it. Because I'm using two-handed here, I found it useful that my interpolation mode to be linear. For me, because it's two-handed, I do find that the linear interpolation works a bit better. So it has to do with the speed of the speed of the interpolation, if we could put it like that. So I call it the AI in between the keyframes. So this is more like a linear movement. So I don't have to connect my hands to that sword. I only got the one connected. I don't have to connect both for it to follow. So it works better for me here. So I did I did look at this animation, and you'll see different sections. I put different keyframes just to try to keep these hands together. So for example, I think we should actually be able to fix this now. So for example, as you can see here, this hand is not in place. It slips off the sword completely. So I've added a keyframe here. Let's see, left arm, so that it can actually be improved a bit. So let's actually do left arm here. I'm just going to fix this with this. Let's see. Not perfect, but let's say that's fixed. And because I'm on a keyframe as well, you can only make edits to your animation if it's on a keyframe. I'll show more about that now. Okay, so let's quickly see what this looks like. Let's just take this off. So as you can see, it clips through the sword there. So the way I'm solving it is not the correct way. There's better ways to do it. Is with the arms. I like to do it in a linear motion. So I'll just going to highlight everything. I'm going to put it in linear, and then it should actually stay on the sword better there. Just getting a better frame. As you can see, that's better there. Let's just put it back into Bezier mode. So as you see, it slips through there. That's what slips through the hand, and I'm going to put it back in linear, and the hand just follows the sword nicely. So that's a good example of the reason why I'm doing that. I'm going to actually put a video in the description as well that Cascadeur released. It explains these modes much better. So I mainly use Bezier. It's like straightforward animations where there's no much movement. I've been recently using Bezier clamped. I find that for my mocap it works actually quite nicely. I just automatically do clamped, and then linear movements. If I've got specific sword movements, anything like that, I use that. So, sorry, to address your question about how do you know if a keyframe is a duplicate of the other one. So usually, for example, I use A and D to go in between the frames, so frame 0 and frame 1. I can see this movement, so I can see the hands, there is movement there. Let's make it exactly the same. So I am going to say, so I'm going to go on frame 0, going to make sure I am in the joint mode, copy all the joints, Control Shift C, click on frame 1, press F to make it a keyframe, Control Shift V, and as you can see it's now pasted. Okay, I still see movement or joints, but it should be exactly the same. So as you can see, no movement here, joints are exactly the same. How I want to know for sure is you can select any, I think I call it the point controller, any point controller. See the hand, I'm going to double click the hand. You can see it's highlighted, there is movement there. And the more I select, the more it highlights. You can see exact movement that it takes. Where in this case, let's see. Yeah, so you can see there's like a little ball there following. And the more you increase it, the more movement you can see. So that's another way you can find out if there's movement or not. But to be quite honest with you, the only thing I do is I scrub through it again using A and D, so I can see my mannequin is not moving, and as soon as I go to the next row I can see that hands are moving. So I don't know if that helps you, but again, another way, if you want to see if something specific is moving, do a point controller. So do the hand again for ease of reference. So let's do this arm. You double click or you click it, whichever you want to see, and then you just highlight the whole interval. So in this case, again, the 2 frames, there's no movements here, but there will be a movement there, as you can see. So you should be able to see the block because the movement is so small and the little dot is small. But yeah, you can just highlight the whole scene and you can see exactly the movements that it's making. I hope it helps you. And then yeah, just the last thing about doing keyframes or animating. Mistake I constantly make and still do make to this day. For example, I'm going to go on this auto posing mode. So here's my first keyframe, frame 0. I can here make any changes I want. It's going to stick. It's going to stay like that. You'll see now it will jump back because that's another keyframe. Because it is so the jump is so big, it will look like that. So now with the interpolation mode, I can take this keyframe off and it'll be much smoother and slower, as you can see like that. If you want to make edits onto animation, for example, actually I want mine to go down a little bit quicker. I'm going to do that now, but you'll see it'll just pop back up. I'm struggling to make animations. I don't understand why. It's because you don't have a keyframe in place. So you have to place a keyframe before you make any changes. So this whole animation that I created as well consists of consists of a few keyframes. The rest has just been filled with an interpolation or the interpolation, however you say it. I call it the AI. And then you can play around with that as well. So for example, I'm going to remove it now. So this is what my animation looks like without it. I'm going to put it all back. And this is what it looks now, a lot better. And then I'm just going to put, for example, stepped on here. And let's see what that looks like. See, it looks very robotic. So that's where I can play with the types of interpolation. Yeah, I sincerely hope it does help. I know your question was specifically about how do you know if 2 keyframes, if they're next to each other, if they do have the same values. Again, I just I just do this. I just make sure the two keyframes. If I see any movement, then I know it's not the same values. And yeah, I sincerely hope that helps. Thank you. Bye.